Janitorial Manager presents the Business of Cleaning podcast, the podcast that brings you the information you need to be successful in the cleaning industry. The Business of Cleaning podcast provides in-depth interviews with successful personalities from the commercial cleaning industry, as well as discussing the trending topics that matter to you and your organization.
And welcome into the Business of Cleaning podcast, your number one source for information on the commercial cleaning industry. We release new episodes monthly, live from the Janitorial Manager studio, located here in Toledo, Ohio. I'm Tim Clegg, the Marketing Communications Specialist with Janitorial Manager and your host of the Business of Cleaning podcast. We're stoked to bring back Edwin Eaton, owner of iPro Building Services, included in the Inc. 5000 3 years in a row, 2025 Entrepreneur of the Year with the NCW Tech Alliance, and our most watched episode of 2023. If you haven't watched that episode, I highly encourage you to go and watch that episode right now. We spent a lot of time in that first episode, Edwin, talking about successful culture, retention, and social media, but we just knew one day that we were going to have you back for part two. Fast forward 3 years later, and here we are, partner.
I'm stoked to be back. I appreciate the invite again. I can never tell you no. So this is awesome 3 years later. So I appreciate the invite.
And it's been a great start to the year, not just business-wise, but personally for you. And you took a trip in February to watch your Seahawks win their second Super Bowl. What was that experience like? And take us through the conversation with your best friend kind of leading up to making that decision happen.
Yeah, first off, amazing experience. Sometimes some teams don't even make it there, right? So
Jacksonville Jaguars.
Exactly, right? So I mean, it's great to be able to be a part of it, right? So yeah, quick story on how we got the tickets. I was in Denver, Colorado for my daughter's volleyball tournament during the NFC Championship game. My buddy's back home in Seattle. After they won their tournament, the dads, we all went over to the bar across the street. We're watching the NFC playoff game. We end up winning. I've had a few drinks. My buddy back in Seattle had a few drinks. I look at my phone. I have a text message, and it just says, "Are you down?" And if you have a best friend, when they say, "Are you down?" I don't even ask. I just say, "Yes, I'm down." And next morning, my wife's just staring at me at the hotel room, and she's like, "Did you check your phone?" I said, "What do you mean?" "Check your phone." She goes, "You guys did something really, really dumb last night." I said, "What happened?" And she said, "You guys purchased Super Bowl tickets." Oh, so that's how that happened. The text message, "Are you down?" Yes. And then I didn't even know, but it was for Super Bowl tickets. But I'm glad that he sent me that text message because we had the time of our lives, and luckily our wives were okay with the purchase and said, "Just go, you guys deserve it. Go have a good time."
And you kind of became by accident a little bit of a media darling. I mean, you and I were exchanging texts that whole weekend, and I think it was ESPN Canada, TSN, for those in the States that are a little bit unfamiliar. You ended up kind of sharing that story, and you ran into the man himself, Mr. Roger Goodell, and was able to give him your advice, what you think changes the league needs to make for 2026, right?
Yeah, I don't think he really listened to me much, just said, "Have a great time at the Super Bowl." But yeah, I mean, TSN was great, TNT Sports, so there are a lot of opportunities that they just came up to you and asking for interviews, and I couldn't pass it up.
Because of the continued success that your company's had, you've been able to formulate and build the lifestyle that you desire, and not having to be necessarily as hands-on as what you've been in the past. When did you decide, hey, I want in business, I want this to be able to run without me having to have my hands-on in the day-to-day, and what change in your mindset did you make to make this possible?
When you start your own business, I don't think thinking long-term, I don't think you ever think of, hey, I'm not going to be in the day-to-day operations piece of it. It's just you're hustling, you're working, you're grinding, trying to build it. And we're going to talk about this later in the show, but I had some health issues in my family that eventually changed my mindset to what needs to happen. And so really it's just putting together, having the right people on the bus and putting systems into place. That's what I preach all the time. And once those were put into place, it kind of got me thinking that, I don't have to be here as much as I need to be, because the right people that I have that are smarter than me in some areas or do things that I don't like to do are taking care of and handling the business for me.
For you now, working essentially that week, what does that look like in practice for you today? I know we were texting last week and you're like, man, I was kind of feeling a little under the weather. I kind of took a nap and don't feel guilty about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's the nice part of it. Again, back to the systems is that, yeah, I mean, if I want to take a nap, or if I want to go attend my daughter's game, or, go to lunch with my wife or something like that, I have the freedom and the flexibility to do that. And again, it just goes back to the systems. But the hardest part is trusting the people that you have in the positions that you put them in to make sure that they're making those right decisions on behalf of the company.
You keep mentioning the word systems. If someone is listening right now, wanted to start systemizing today, what are your first 3 areas that you should have them focus and start documenting and standardizing?
Yeah, I mean, first 3, I think number 1 is going to be operations. And really that's, putting together, your scope of work of what you want done, not just for, the particular client, but your scope of work for your business. Like, this is what we want done. Ultimately, I like sports analogies, but I look at it as your playbook, right?
Yeah.
So that's your operations playbook, your scheduling. How are they going to do inspections? Who's going to handle any issues that happen? Who's going to do the hiring? Where are you going to do these interviews? And so number 1 is operations, and that all kind of is in that operations bundle. No, number 2 is people and leadership. Really, again, I mentioned having the right people on the bus. You got to have the right people on the bus. But then you have to establish those roles, and then you have to establish the expectations for each of those roles. So if you're hiring your first manager, have the expectations, have a binder of everything that's written out for that, your GM, your sales team. And, there has to be accountability. So who's going to be accountable if something happens, right? And then you have to have those training systems within the people and the leadership. You can't just say this person is going to train because they're on shift today. You got to have the right person. And then I think the last piece is the sales and revenue piece, because obviously you can have operations and people, but if you don't have sales coming in, your business, you're not going to be in business, right? So it's, what are your lead flows? What's your sales process? What do your proposals look like? What's your pricing system? So you put that all together from your sales process to your people and leadership and to your operations. Those are the 3 main ones that are going to keep going. And really, it's going to keep you away from your business in a sense, because problems are going to get solved without you there. People are going to lead without you there, and sales are going to happen without you there. And then you realize you don't have to be there as much because these systems in place and people are taking care of your business for you.
You've been in this industry over 20 plus years, also doing some coaching, some consulting. What mistakes in your coaching, in your experience, do you see owners making when they think that they have those systems in place, but they really don't?
Yeah, I mean, they'll talk about having systems in place, right? When it comes to pricing, great. You know how to price this, but do you know what your profit is? And they don't know that. So understanding your numbers is really a big point for them. The second thing is, when you have people in place, why are you always overriding them? At some point, you have to let them make the decisions, good or bad. Otherwise, they're never going to learn from it, and you're never going to learn from it. And again, back to the 3 systems you need in place, that just things go into your playbook. So just over the years for me, being in business and running this thing and being in the trenches, it's just, I write everything down and I put together, again, this playbook from piece to piece, so that if somebody else steps into the sales role or to a supervisor role, there's always something that's in there that they can refer to. There's probably something that I've dealt with that they're going to run into that they can refer to on that. But yeah, that's really the biggest piece, is they don't get out of their own way and let the people that they hired solve the issues and take care of things for them.
Having people in the right position on the offense or the defense and building that trust. What roles did you prioritize when, hiring to first remove yourself from the daily operations?
Yeah, I mean, it started from when I hired my first supervisor. So now I've hired my first supervisor so that I'm not out all night doing the cleaning. Now I can concentrate on selling. So then I had that supervisor in place. And then it's like, you know what? I'm taking on a lot of sales, but I need another salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
So then it was hiring that salesperson. And then now there's a lot going on. So then I got to hire a manager, a regional manager, or a GM. And so it's just step by step as you start to grow your company, you start creating these roles. And then really to build, again, sports analogies, your offensive line, you're the quarterback. These are the people that are going to protect your business.
Have you ever had the wrong person in a key role, and how did that impact, the ability to make an audible at the line of scrimmage?
Yeah, honestly, just recently. And this person had been with me for a while. And the problem was, in the beginning it was great. The mindset was there, everything was there. As we started to grow and things started to change, you can't do the same things over and over again if you're going to grow. Things have to change, right? And this person just wasn't accepting the change. They wanted to keep things the way they were before. And there was just this disconnect from our leadership team and from the employees. And it was one of those where it was just that time. So we had to let that person go. And honestly, since that person's been gone, the team has just been flourishing now that they're seeing the changes.
Letting go, it's something that's difficult to do. What was the hardest responsibility for you to delegate, and how were you finally able to say, I got everybody in place. I just need to kind of step back and kind of wash my hands from the situation right now?
Yeah, I think the hardest part is just me trying to be ingrained into everything, into seeing how the supervisors are leading. Well, maybe you can try this different. Or with sales, let's try this, let's go here. And then even with, higher up management, trying to tell them what to do. And it's like, I'm my own obstacle, and I had to get out of the way to kind of see how they perform. And then again, we identified the one upper management person that was not wanting change. And if I didn't get out of the way, I wouldn't be able to focus and to be able to see that. So if you're able to get out of your own way and just kind of take a look at the overall business and see, what do they call them? KPIs, your key performance, things like that. You're going to be able to see, who's good, who's not, who needs work, right?
What does the reporting structure look like during, the 3 weeks when you're kind of not as hands-on? What does that structure look like as far as reporting?
Yeah, so I do have a general manager in place. And so my general manager oversees all the regional managers and all the managers. And then the managers oversee their supervisors, and then the supervisors oversee all the employees. And then on top of that, we have our HR department, and we have our accounting department for payroll. So everybody kind of knows how the funnel goes and where to communicate. And then again, if it gets to the general manager, it's kind of a larger issue. And then if it gets to me, then, the building better be on fire kind of
thing. Right. What would you say to an owner who wants this level of freedom, but they just feel stuck in that day-to-day grind? Whether it's, man, we're stuck I'm stuck in the weeds. I'm doing the day to day. I don't have enough, people scheduling. So, you've been there, you've been having to go out those late nights. What would you say to give them, that advice to get for them to get that freedom that they need?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, to at least give yourself a little flexibility, some freedom, is to identify, maybe there's a person on your team that is not necessarily just a strong cleaner, but maybe has a sense or wants to take on a little bit more of a role, and identify that person. And then just kind of, again, what your expectations are, and see if that person fits the vibe of what you're looking for. Because if you can find that right person, you never know what could happen. They can run through the ranks and all of a sudden become your general manager, or they can be that person to supervise a crew to free up a little bit of your time. So you freed up a little bit, and then you find another person, and kind of what we talked about, your flow of your organizational chart. But that's how you start it, is just identify that first person who's going to kind of be your right-hand person, and let them take on a little more responsibility, again, to free you up a little bit. But it also gives you an opportunity for the people and leadership part of the systems that I was talking about, put together the pros and cons of what worked and what didn't with this person, because that first person may be, a superstar. It may be a complete failure, but you're going to learn either way on what worked and what didn't with that person.
If you were going back in time, had a time machine, had to rebuild your business from scratch with the goal of only working right now that one week a month, what would you do differently to kind of get ahead of the class and be leading the pack?
Honestly, I don't think I would do anything differently. I mean, there may be a few things operational wise here and there, but I wouldn't be where I'm at because I wouldn't have learned what I've learned
Yeah.
the years, right? So from being in the, if you are an owner, like you got to be humble enough to get in the trenches and clean a toilet, right? Or take out a trash and work with your staff. Here's an example. I told the story on the very first episode with you that we did is I had my very first hire. Guy was just awesome, phenomenal cleaner. Anyways, when I broke away from that company and started iPro, he stayed with that company. Well, just as of 4 or 5 months ago, he came back to me. And so now with 15 years of experience, and the crazy thing is, I've had managers that will go out, just say hello to the staff, do an inspection, and that's pretty much it. And the staff just kind of does their thing. They never really go above and beyond. Well, this guy that I brought back, he comes in, he talks to you. Next thing you know, he's on his hands and his knees and he's cleaning a baseboard. Or
Wow.
he's in there helping you clean a toilet. He doesn't have to do this.
Yeah.
This is what builds the camaraderie with them. Next thing you know, he was just overseeing a site for us. A couple of cleaners one of them made him a pie as a thank you. Like, we've never had a manager do this before. Like, we really appreciate you. We had one of our clients ask, how many people do we have on the night staff? Because they've seen a transformation of the facility. They wanted to give them a little treat, a little,
Yeah.
thank you. And that was just from this guy, just talking to his staff and getting in the trenches. So as an owner, those are the things that you have to do, especially building culture. But just this is how you start to build a team. And then that's when people see that. And that's when you hire your first supervisor who's going to want to be just like you. And that just continues the trend throughout your company.
It's kind of contagious, kind of infectious, right? Seeing somebody like that, and it just energizes everybody else and gives a better flow, as you guys have seen. These changes that we've talked about and successes have allowed you to focus on your family and create lifelong memories with your family, including your wife. She helped you start the business over 20 years ago. She's battled some health issues in the last few years. How is she doing, and how have these things brought you guys closer together as husband and wife, and how have these things changed your mindset on business overall?
Yeah, for years, my wife has told me to just kind of let go and let the management staff take over. That she's always telling me that's what you hired them for. So let them do it. And if they fail, you can fix it. And so she's told me that for years. And sometimes it just goes in one ear and out the other, but I still remember what she says, but I don't share a lot of personal stuff on podcasts and things like that. But you and I, we've talked off air. And for those of you that don't know, my wife had stage 4 cervical cancer. And so if anybody's dealt with cancer, stage 4 is kind of the end all, right? So you never know. I mean, she could die. We don't know what's going to happen. And so we were at a point where it was like, great, I have to step away. I don't have a choice. I need to spend the time with my wife because I don't know how much time I'm going to have with her. And so, back to the systems, I had all the systems in place. I had a playbook, thankfully. And so I put that in place. I talked to my management and leadership team. This is what's going to happen. I need you guys to run the business. I'm still here if you need me, but do it, right? And those words that my wife was saying, let them do their thing. They freaking rocked it. I mean, the business grew. We added more employees. I mean, everything I talked about, problems got solved without me. People led without me. Sales happened without me. And so I had the time to spend with my wife. I mean, we went to all her bucket list places. I mean, we went to Egypt. We went to Bora Bora. I mean, we went to all these places.
Yeah.
But this is what she wanted to do because we didn't know. But thankfully, a few months ago, she got to ring the bell. So she's cancer free. Which is awesome.
Yeah.
But what I've learned through the whole experience now is that if you have it structured and you have everything in place, your business truly can run without you. And, just what I've done and with my personal issues that happened, it just worked out perfectly. And so now I'm not day to day as I used to be. And I actually feel good and I'm comfortable with it.
how did you talk about your team stepping up? What did this reveal to you about the culture and just overall camaraderie that you had built? What did that feel like for you?
To be able to be on the sideline and kind of watch this all happen, because I was still like, man, I still got to be there. I still got to see what's going on. So I'd get up early in the morning before my wife would get up just to kind of check emails, send emails, and do all that. But the thing they kept telling me is, don't worry, we've got this covered. Just take care of your wife. Just take care of her. We've got this. We've got this. And the more and more they said it, it was just like, you know what? They do. Because like I said, the sales kept going. We weren't having issues. We just kept growing. And, it just stemmed from my GM, shout out to Gary, to operations with my son, Alex, to my managers, in HR, Edith and Susan and payroll, all my supervisors, Maria, Daniel, David, Roy, all these guys are just handling everything. And they're not letting anything come to me, even if it's just the smallest thing. Nothing is coming to me. They're going to each other. They're talking to each other, getting assistance, helping each other. And I mean, it's a well-oiled machine right now. It's just amazing to see that at this point in the game.
Yeah, it's incredible. And, it also too, seeing them have that kind of success continues to strengthen their trust in each other and believing in one another and being able to take the winning shot.
Well, here's one for you as well. We're all getting older, and so we had one of our managers whose mother was on hospice care. Our staff jumped on it right away. My GM, my operations manager, jumped on it right away. They understood after seeing what I had to go through. They jumped on it and said, no problem. Go spend the time with her. We'll get it covered. We'll make sure between our management team, we'll make sure everything's covered for you. So that was awesome to see that. I didn't even have to intervene or say anything. Wow. And then we had an employee who had the same thing, whose mother is on hospice as well. And the staff jumped in because they saw the management team was doing it. So when we went in and said, hey, we're going to need some assistance at this account, who can help out? Literally everybody's hand went up. And it was like, okay, that's company culture right there. I mean, we have each other's backs. And that's just, to me as the owner, that's just an awesome feeling.
What does that make, as you can kind of reflect now, and not, in your instance, but you mentioned the 3 or 4 others. How does that personally make you feel like, man, everybody talks about culture, right? Everybody talks about these things. Oh, we're a family. But for you, like, what does it personally mean? Like, man, this thing could have crashed and burned, right? It didn't. But like, now that you guys have persevered and, continuing to get better with each instance, it just has to mean so much more to you now than before.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. And it just makes me want to invest more into developing people. Right. And that's really the key, because I took the time in the beginning to develop some of my key players, and they saw kind of how I wanted things run. Again, what my expectations were. And they took that, and then they understood my situation, and now they understand other people's situations. And so they become empathetic, and it goes through the whole team. And I mean, to sit back and to see that is just amazing. It's like its own ecosystem just doing its thing. So yeah, I mean, it's an amazing thing to watch.
We're talking with Edwin Eaton, CEO of iPro Building Services in Wenatchee, Washington. And data centers are a big topic around the United States, especially here in Ohio right now. But for those unfamiliar in the cleaning industry, what makes data center cleaning such a unique and valuable niche within the cleaning industry?
I don't think it's any different than most places, just other than the fact that there are some monstrous size buildings. Yeah. But really, it's similar to other buildings if you take that approach to it. But it is a longer sales process to get into it. It can take 8 months to a few years to get into some of these data centers. But if you think about it now, and this is something, on the coaching side with me that I tell a lot of my students is, right now in the day and age that we're in, it's all about technology. So I look at three niches that, commercial cleaning businesses should be going after. So if you're a new commercial cleaning business owner, look at, number one is data centers, obviously, because almost everything's being replaced with AI. But these data centers are massive. There's servers in there. They're open 365 days a year, 7 days a week. I mean, it's ongoing 24 hours a day. And so that's something you need to get into, because that is the future, and they're popping up everywhere. Number two is medical. at some point we're all going to have some type of issue that's going to happen. We're going to go into a clinic, we're going to go into a hospital. Those always need to be cleaned, right?
Yeah.
And the third one, every day when I get home from work, there's boxes galore at my front door from Amazon or UPS or something, right? So manufacturing and warehouses, because the brick and mortar stores are just slowly going away. Everybody's ordering online, and that's what it is. So those are my three top niches. So it's not necessarily just data centers, but I look at those three, and that's kind of what we go after and we attack.
When did you guys kind of realize data centers, they present a serious revenue opportunity? You mentioned size. That square footage is massive with some of these data centers they're building. When did you start to realize here's an opportunity? We need to capitalize. We need to put some bids in and make those connections.
Absolutely. And if you've ever heard my story, I had a dasher board at a hockey rink.
Yep.
The kid at a youth hockey tournament got slammed into it. Just so happens his dad was a facilities manager for a major data center, called me up. That's how I got my first one. Mm-hmm. And really what it's about is it's relationships to a point, because that one data center turned into 12, then it turned into 50. And now in this one cluster of data centers, we have almost 100. So think about that. If you get one cluster, you have the potential of getting 100 of them. They're not going to go elsewhere because, again, it's relationships that they're building with you. And then if it's a massive one, they may have a cluster of 100 here, and then they may go to your area, Tim, right? And then there's a cluster there. They're going to offer you those. So there's potential there. And the money on it is, it's not that price isn't an object. It's that the cleanliness is what has to happen in these data centers. And so, yeah, I mean, the day porters, nighttime cleaners, and then in the back of the house you have people that are cleaning. They call them subfloors. The tiles come out and you're cleaning underneath the floors, and so it's nonstop. It's ongoing. So one data center, you could have 10 plus full-time employees. Times that by 50 sites. Times that, and by
that's sites. Every day, right? You're cleaning
every single day.
Wow.
And that's life-changing money that can change your business, change your life, everything for you.
What keeps most cleaning companies out of the data center space? Because it's kind of like, once you like you talked about building the relationship, but it's, there's only a dozen maybe companies, maybe a little bit more, and you're in that crowd, you're in that conversation. So, what keeps most cleaning companies out of that space, out of that opportunity?
I think it's just fear that they're, maybe a Fortune 500 company or something. I mean, that's what I see from doing coaching and just talking to a lot of people is, a lot of times you can't get in. There's no way to find out who the right person is to talk to, because out of 80 data centers, there's a manager for each of them. So how do you get to them? Because you get to the gate and there's a security guard. And if you don't have a meeting, you don't get in. Right.
Right.
So you, and so it's just, and that's just part of sales, is being told no and just finding a way. And so, just because you went to the security gate and they told you no, find a way, go on LinkedIn, see if you can start a relationship. I mean, anything in business is just relationship building, right? We're not in the cleaning industry, really. We're in the relationship building industry. So finding that person, starting that relationship is going to get you an opportunity to get into some of these places.
Are there any specific certifications or different set of training or investments that are required to even be considered for these opportunities before you have a chance to step foot in there?
Honestly, no.
Interesting.
Some people will tell you yes, and there are some training and certifications that you can get. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I mean, nothing against them. It's great to have that and to understand the knowledge. We just learned as we went to learn these things. Yeah. I mean, you can spend your money and be ready for it, or if you do get it, then spend the money for certifications. But honestly, for 90% of it, it's just generalized cleaning that you already know what to do. It's just different types of tools. So electrostatic, they don't want any type of static. So it's having that type of equipment. That's really where you're going to be spending your money, is finding the correct equipment that you need in these facilities.
Someone's listening. They're not in any data centers yet, but want to now pursue some in this niche after listening to this conversation. What's the first step that they should take? Is it getting involved, trying to, hey, there's a data center right down the street being built, trying to find that person maybe on LinkedIn and who's the site manager or the manager overall of that data center?
Yeah, number one is stay out of the Pacific Northwest, okay? Because we welcome the competition. No, but you're absolutely right. It's networking piece. excuse me, because you're never just going to be able to walk into there. Some of them you might be able to. Maybe they have a manufacturing warehouse that you can get into. That person might put you in touch with the right person. What I can always say is if it's a big national company, find out who the procurement manager is. So go to the corporate headquarters and find that. If you have a lead generation tool, look at that. Or just, in the search bar in LinkedIn, find that person there. Or even if there's local networking events that are going on, some of those people are going to attend these events. And that's a great opportunity to introduce yourself to find out who the particular person is you need to speak to. And those are kind of the ways, especially in some of the areas that we've gone to. We've went to chamber business after hours events. And, for a big Fortune 500 company data center, we couldn't figure out who the person was to talk to. We went to this business after hours event. There was their company, 5 or 6 people. So we went and talked to them, handed out our business cards, asked the question who we need to talk to. 2 weeks later, they put us in touch with that person. So just be out networking and building those relationships. That's really the best way.
Fantastic information, especially if owners are listening, trying to break into a new niche in the industry. Not only has the business continued to grow, but the personal brand has continued to grow. Edwin, as you have started your own podcast and have built an outstanding following on TikTok as well. First, what motivated you to start your own cleaning podcast, and what gap did you feel was missing in the podcasts that were out there?
Listen, first off, thanks to you is why I got the podcast. Because
Right.
in all honesty, you were the very first podcast I was on. And what happened with that is just people started reaching out to me, and really that's how my coaching really went to the next level. And I thought, man, people actually listen to these podcasts, and if they're good, you're going to get a good following, and people are going to get information from there. So on the TikTok side of things, I just give daily advice and that kind of stuff. And then what happened with the podcast was people wanted to hear, you get on a lot of podcasts and it's kind of, like this is my second time on this podcast, which is great. But a lot of times you get people who have been in the industry, they're really established, and it really does nothing for the people that are brand new in the industry per se. And so I wanted to bring the limelight on people that are just starting out and that want to hear the struggles that new people are starting out.
Yeah.
What are the pain points? And so we're always talking about sales. We're always talking about how to bid. We're always talking about how to prospect. And so I found that niche with the listeners, and that kind of resonates with them.
How has hosting a podcast impacted your business, whether in terms of relationships, opportunities, and building on your brand credibility?
Yeah, brand credibility has been huge on that. For the commercial cleaning side, it's just the visibility to the brand. But on the coaching side of things and the software side of things, it just, you become kind of this, I guess you could say, trusted advisor that people start seeing. And the more and more they see you, the more guests that you have and the interactions you're having, you just become this person that they trust. And that's really built up my personal brand big time.
What have you learned from your guests that have maybe directly influenced how you run your company? Maybe somebody's offered you some piece of advice, or a guest that really influenced you.
I think there's always something new that I learned from the guests. Some of them that are, working 24/7, and then they're having an issue with, how to do inspections. And then we talk it through, and then they come up with this cool way of solving it. It's like, wow, I didn't even think of that. So I'll write that down. I'll put that into my playbook. Or, on pricing or how to measure a building or something like this. Somebody always has some type of idea, right? Because you can't do things the way that they used to be done way back in the day. And just there's some new stuff that's coming out, and you got to kind of be a hybrid and be both. And so I learned from all the guests, honestly, there's something new that I learned from them all the time.
TikTok, you've had a lot of success. Matter of fact, you've grown your TikTok followers to over 15,000 strong while running your business. What do you think has resonated the most with your audience?
Well, I will say the audience is niche specific. So I know for those 15,000 plus that I have, they are in some way, shape, or form related to the commercial cleaning industry, which honestly is great. But with them, what resonates is just having somebody that's out there that's been in the trenches and is telling them how it is. Because I I see other people on TikTok, 20-year-olds coming on there, and it's here's how you're going to make $2 million in 70 days or whatever it is. And they're just giving them a line of BS to buy their courses. And then they end up spending $1,000 with this person and then nothing. They don't get anything out of it. So I would rather not put courses out there and just make it a daily course. Here's the tip of the day. Maybe one week it's going to be all about sales objections. So what do you do if somebody says we clean in-house? What do you do if somebody says, your price is too high? And so I give them real lessons that I've learned in the field about that. It resonates well. They're asking questions. They're wanting to work with me to coach them. It just works hand in hand.
You're recording and editing these videos right from your truck. How has that level of consistency and simplicity contributed to your success?
The truck is my studio, right? The thing is great. And that's kind of your thing. When I was first starting them out, I was doing them all over the place. And it's like, you know what? I'll do it in my truck. And what's crazy is if I go and I do it in another car, I do it in my office, somebody calls me out like, where's the truck? So they actually, so I know they're watching it.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, it's just, the editing piece takes time. So I try to find one day out of my week.
You edit these yourself, not anybody in marketing, you're not outsourcing it to a marketing company. You are doing this yourself.
I'm doing it myself. It's very time consuming.
Did your daughter help you? I know she's in that generation, she's 13, 14 that is obsessed with TikTok.
Yeah, no, she doesn't. She tells me my videos are cringe. So, but no, I do all the editing. But what's crazy is like her volleyball team. Some of the girls on the team, these are 14-year-olds, are like, hey Edwin, we saw you on TikTok. Your videos are actually key. They're a vibe, and it's like, whoa. So a lot of people are seeing them, but I do all the editing. I try to take one day out of the week and I'll try to film 5 or 6 videos. It'll take me a couple hours and then done. Then I don't have to worry about it for a week. Then I take a week off and then I do it again the following week.
At what point did you start seeing real business opportunities come from TikTok? And what did that start to look like? And what does it look like now as you've built that following of 15,000 strong?
Yeah, I always thought, hearing people that, hey, I made this much this week, this much that week. And so I thought, man, I'm getting views. Why am I not making any money? Well, if you have a business TikTok, you can't make money off of views and things like that. So the way that people do that is offering courses and things like that. And really, I try not to do any of that. What happens is people started coming to me and saying, hey, do you coach? I need a mentor. I like what you're talking about. And so I said, actually, I do. Here's the website. So I put links in my TikTok and I'll talk about it. And people come right there and they book times with me. It's just crazy. I see all my websites and I track it. If I post something on TikTok and as soon as it hits, I see the websites kind of go crazy. So I know we're listening to what I'm talking about. And then they're going and double checking it too, to make sure what I'm talking about is legit.
What type of content actually has the strongest conversion into leads or revenue for your cleaning business that you've found out?
So for the cleaning business itself, with me, it's all about my people. And so I actually don't pay for any leads. I don't boost any social media for my cleaning business itself. But what people have started to see, and again, if you're on LinkedIn, that's the number one tool that I use. I think I did about almost $1.8 million last year in sales just from LinkedIn alone. And that's not spending any money on ads or anything. It's just putting out content. And so, I'm consistently doing it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I know the right time to post it. And then I see what works and what doesn't work. And so on my personal brand, I'll post something, and then on my business, I'll post something, but I kind of correlate them together. So you're almost getting a double dose on those days. But people love to see when I start talking about my people. And so, we have the little picture frame that we do when it's their anniversary. And I actually had my accounting gal who was like, hey, you have this new wall. I had a painter come in. It says Inc. 5000 on the wall. And we got some big bean bags below it. She's like, let me sit on the beanbag chair in front of the ink wall and I'll put the picture frame up. And she did that. And then it just went crazy. And we actually got a call from a local business that saw that and they wanted to see if we could come in and do food for them. And so people see that because this is a high turnover industry. And so if you're able to keep your people on, it's always like 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 8 years that people are seeing our employees. They know we're doing something right. And they just love to see that. It's like, oh, there's Tim. He's been with Edwin for 8 years. We want Tim to clean our place. And we get a lot of that. It's just, it's crazy how that works. It's not the before and after photos that people want to see.
I was thinking leading up to this interview, you and I converse outside, texting, talking a lot about sports, and, it resonates, it carries over in the business side, as you were just mentioning. I don't know if you have any plans or have thought of it, but here's an idea I thought of for you guys to maybe instill in your offices, which is awesome. You guys give a video that takes you room to room and you can see all that, but a iPro wall of fame. Where you put and build plaques. Like, for instance, you go to a high school, right? Your high school, you see the sports plaques, the individual pictures. Hey, Edwin, here he is. Wenatchee Hall of Fame for football from this year to this year, and you can honor the legacy of those employees that spent 10, 15, 20, how many ever years, or they've done something game-changing, next level for you.
I like that. We're going to have to talk more off air about this. And
we can do that.
I just slowly peered over into the office area there. It's like, I might have to get a bigger wall, or I might need to do something like this. But no, I love that idea. Yeah, I am a sports guy. So that's something I'm down to do something like that.
You and I have talked, and you stressed to me, how have more owners not gone to TikTok for you to kind of pitch them, whether they're putting out just informational pieces, or, I had a guest last year from Trinidad and Tobago that had, just these videos gone viral. They found their niche, right? They were more funny, more, they were informative, but they were funny. Are we going to see more cleaning owners, more cleaning companies adapt to TikTok? Because I mean that you and him are the only two that I've really seen dedicate time and stick with it and see the results through.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if it's to grow your commercial cleaning company, it's not really, I don't think it's the demographic. I don't think your facility managers and procurement managers are on there. But again, you never know, right? All it takes is one video. But I think it's a great place for business owners, commercial cleaning business owners, to go out there and tell your story. Right. And other people are going to see this. And that's, I love the networking piece. And really, that's why I kind of started, is just to network with other people across the country. And it was just like, you put one story out. I put the story how I got the data centers, and then people started reaching out and asking for help. So, if you're a commercial cleaning business owner, and, maybe you're thinking about getting into coaching, or maybe you're thinking about mentoring people, it's a great platform to do that. You tell your story, people start connecting with you. And it's a great piece if you want to start making money off of it, or if you just want to share your story and network. It's a great piece. But, there's YouTube that does the long form on how-to videos, but I think TikTok is more of the short form kind of thing. So, I see a lot of floor care companies that are doing before and afters of stripping, waxing, and floors, and their videos are really cool, and it gets a lot of traction, a lot of people watching it. So there's things that you could do with your business doing that, not necessarily getting customers, but at least brand identity and getting your brand name out there.
Edwin, thank you so much for taking time discussing part 2 with us, expanding kind of as we were able to dive a little bit deeper here in our conversation in the cleaning industry. Where can listeners follow and connect with you if they have any additional questions, if they're looking for coaching, or if they just want to network and expand their online presence with you? How can they do so?
Yeah, so we talked about LinkedIn. I'm big on LinkedIn, and so it's just at Edwin Eaton. Just search me on LinkedIn. You can find me there. Would love to link up with anybody and everybody. We talked about TikTok. The handle is the cleaning consultant. And you can find me there if you need daily tips or anything like that. Those are the two main ones for my commercial cleaning business. It's worryfree.cleaning. There's no .com. It's just worryfree.cleaning.
And that will conclude this month's edition of the Business of Cleaning. Be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Also, be sure to leave us a 5-star review, and your comments do appear on our next episode. For everyone, janitorial manager, our guest, Edwin Eaton, I'm Tim Clack saying so long. Until next time.